Hey guys, your Renaissance man here, still doing a little bit of everything, and I got my next project for you. It's a great coffee station right here. I just finished it actually, and got it put all together. Haven't even been able to use it yet. Really excited for in the morning just to be able to be over here out of the way of the kitchen and just have my own space for it. This one's really great. There weren't any designs. Some designs online had areas for this area up top, but unfortunately the house I'm in right now, I'm renting it, and so I didn't want to go screwing into the wall and make more holes. So I created this design, just a tabletop, created some uprights on here with all these cups, and then it's got a little shelf underneath. Here, I'll go ahead and show you. Got a little shelf down below that's slatted. Gave it a nice open look with some color and lots of extra storage. And then for the hanging area up top, I just added another shelf on top just for a little more flair and a little more storage. So unfortunately my camera wasn't working, so I didn't get a full video tutorial on how to build this. But I did get in early enough on the process that I had a little explanation on how I put it together and how all the pieces came together and tied together nice. So if you have any questions on it, leave a comment and I'll try and get back to you on it as soon as possible. Let's get started.
Alrighty, so I've removed the top upright just for this video, make it a little bit easier on myself. And then also I've unbolted the legs. Notice there's just holes there now. So this part actually lifts up and is really easy, but it's a little bit easier to explain it whenever these are together. Now this top part, it's I mean, super simple to make. This back piece I think is a 1x11. This is maybe a 1x9, so it's got a pretty good surface. It's actually a lot wider than I had anticipated, but I'm not really complaining for the table space. It'll give me a lot to work with whenever I'm making my coffee or just doing whatever I want. So the first thing I did, I took my 1x9 and drilled pocket holes all around the border. I think I got 3 in the sides, 4 or 5 running down the length of it on both sides. I took this back piece, measured it to length and cut it, pocket holed it and glued it on. Real simple. Next I attached this middle strip. The grain kind of makes it difficult to see right there. You can see it down here. Same thing, pocket holes, real simple. Then I added this 1x9 onto it. So I just had these 4 pieces connected. Real simple. And I'm not perfect with my measurements. I'm getting better, a lot better than I used to be. So what I did, my next step was to add the 2 sides, because then you can measure from this back to the front of your 1x9. But I just added one side to start with, so I pocket holed all along, and then I pocket holed, like, if it's flipped over, this is the bottom, but if it's flipped over, the top of these 2x4s together, right there as well. And then I took my piece without that side on it and ran it through a table saw, because these were maybe 1/8 of an inch off. Ran it through a table saw, made it really nice alignment, and then I added this side, did the same thing with pocket holes and glue. From there I measured this piece really well, actually. Pocket holed it on, did my pocket holes down here to connect those. And voila, I flipped it over and was majorly disappointed because it wasn't flat. I was working on a flat surface, expected more. Whatever, my boards were slightly warped, scrap, I mean, what are you gonna do? And I have access to a joiner, but not one that's that wide. I mean, that would be a huge one. So I took my number 4 bench plane, just used a hand planer, planed it down really far. That was kind of, don't quote me on grammar. And now I have this amazing surface right here. You can see a joint, but if you had your eyes closed or were in the dark, you wouldn't even be able to tell, because you can't feel it. You can feel a tiny one there if you're looking, but otherwise it's perfectly smooth. took the planer to this underside as well. I didn't worry too much about that middle board or the bottom, who cares, but I figured if you're grabbing the table you would feel the bottom anywhere, so I made sure to get that underside. Once I had that, all those surfaces that I just mentioned, I used my belt sander and hit it with 3 grades of sandpaper, 40, 80, and 120 grit. Made it real smooth, looked nice. I was very happy with it in the end. And that's just the real simple top, nice and easy to build. Now the second thing we tackle is the upright portion for our cups and an extra shelf. Give it that extra flair, that zing. And you won't have the legs for it to sit on. I had it sitting on my workbench outside. I'm in my garage now. So what I did, I had these 2 pieces, and remember this is all scrap, so I lucked out and found this. Now I did it in a way that I wish I wouldn't have, and I'm gonna tell you the way I wish I would have done it. So I had my uprights, I cut them, but I had these 2, and what I did was I used dowel joints in this whole top section. It's the only place I used dowel joints. What I did, I drilled my holes in the top of this, or in the edge of the board on the back side, because this has a 45 profile right there. So does this one. And then I put in my pins for the dowel joint, aligned it, and pressed it up in there. And you want to make sure that this is parallel to this by measuring. Draw a pencil line. Got my pressed them together, drilled my holes, and then I just used dowel joints and threw them together. And that's what you want to do first. From there, drill holes in the side of these parts and put in your pins, and then use your uprights, press it in there and figure out where the holes are going to line. Drill your holes and then put it together. That's the way I wished I would have done it. There was a slight discrepancy, which you can't really tell unless you're the person that built it, so it's frustrating to me. But nobody ever sees that kind of thing. Do the same thing over here. Glue and clamp. I guess my glue didn't hold up, but these dowel joints hold together once it's screwed to the top of the table, so I'm not too worried about that. Once you get that, that's going to be the whole upright. Measure this top board right here as precise as humanly possible, and then set that whole piece, this whole thing, up on there. From there, these upright boards have a tendency to move ever so slightly back and forth, which can screw up your cosmetic alignment on the thing, not functional alignment. Stick it on here and measure them to get the exact same spacing as the top. Once I have that, I shifted the entire thing left and right to get the same distance. You can see there's a little bit of wood that shows whenever you set it up there, which is perfect. I don't mind it at all. But I wanted it to be the same on both sides, so I moved it just kind of, I think I measured it actually from the outside edge to here. Once you get that, hit it with a pencil line. I did the inside edge on both of them. I got the pencil mark down there too. And then all I did was I took a piece of that wood and laid it down sideways and just estimated where the middle was. Drew my pilot holes right there. Got them down there too. So that allows you, I drilled my pilot holes down using this thing. So I got a 90 degree, put screws in through the bottom, and then I think I had my wife hold it. I don't remember what I did. Somebody held it. I might have held it. And yeah, actually my wife did hold it. She held it there in place, and then I aligned the back of those 2x6s with this joint right here. And then I just used 2.5-inch screws, went right up into it, and those suckers hold that thing superbly. So by the end of this step, you should have just a table topper with this thing. It's very awkward to carry and move around, but it works. After that, I tackled the legs. This part, pretend it's not there. we're just gonna focus with these 4 legs. So I cut these pieces as close as I possibly could. I mean, they weren't an 1/8 of an inch. They might have been a 1/16 of an inch different, if that. I mean, pretty close. Then I took a block. Oh, where did my block go? There it is. Kind of like this. Used a drill press. I don't have a drill press, but I have access to one. And drilled a big hole in the middle. And that gave me a good 90-degree guide for my drill. Flipped these things over and used my 1/2 inch drill bit. And got as close to a hole going straight vertically up into there. And I was kind of worried about these wheels. I didn't know how to attach them because they're just a threaded rod. There's nothing to really hold them. But anyways, I found out that that rod threaded perfectly into my 1/2 inch hole. So there's actually no glue or anything holding them. At a later date, I might choose to resin them, in which case I'll apply resin to the threads, thread it up in there, and let it harden. But right now, they're looking good to me. So anyways, I had this tabletop laying down, obviously, because I didn't have 3 other legs to support it. And to attach my first one, I put it up under here in the corner, as close as it would go, and clamped it there. And I had a pretty tight clamp on there, but I had it where I could still adjust this. Took my carpenter square and put it up against here along this edge and down this side. Made it perfectly square, or as perfect as humanly possible. And then I drilled my 2 holes. These are either 1/4 inch, I use 1/4 inch threads, so they might be 5/16 or 5/8. One of those two, because my bolts are slightly loose in there. I want to say 5/8. Anyways, attach that with my bolts once I got those on there. And in order to find my position, I measured inside here and found out it was 2.5 inches from top to bottom inside. So I measured 1.25 inch to find the middle, and then I took the measure of this piece, divided it into 3, so we get 1, 2, 3, divided up by the holes, which gives you thirds, and those are perfectly spaced top to bottom and side to side. Did that with all of them, and it gave me roughly the same holes, which meant I didn't have to worry too much about switching my legs if I ever took it apart during that process. So this one, exact same process, stuck it up in there, clamped it, got my square, yada yada. But I measured from here to the bottom of the wood and did the same thing here, because remember, they were slightly off, and then there's pocket holes up in here to deal with that aren't perfectly flush, unfortunately. So I put that at the same length first and clamped it there. Then I got my carpenter square, squared it up, and then the last thing to check, I measured from here to here, made sure it was the same distance as here to here. We know this one's square. We put our carpenter square on here and checked it, but that length, that measurement, makes sure that they're parallel, which helps a lot with the functioning of the table. So bada boom, drill it, bolt it, same thing. That other side, I did the exact same thing. You can kind of see that pocket a little better up in there on that side. But exact same process, nothing to it. Now those bolts are still wobbly because the holes are slightly bigger. So I actually had to cut a piece twice because I thought one of my legs had moved. But it just wasn't perfectly square because my bolts allowed it to shift. Once I made it square, everything was perfect the exact way that I designed it. And that will give you a tabletop with 4 legs. The final part to this entire endeavor is the bottom shelf. I wanted something that looked really, wood and cosmetic and airy. I wanted it to be light and all that. And whoo, that's not a 90-degree leg, but I just realized I don't have my bolts in. That scared me for a second. Man, yeah, that'll tighten right back up whenever I bolt it in. Man, okay. Apart from that heart attack, let's see. So I wanted this to actually be slatted, So I made all these slats. I think I got just general 1x2s from Lowe's. Nothing fancy. I mean, they worked real well. And now you're kind of getting the idea of these slats all the way across. I got 1x2s, used a table saw to cut off one side, flipped it around, cut off the other side, and sanded. All the sanding was awful. These I think are 1x3s, the exact same type of wood. Measure at the top from here to here, make your cut, and that's where it goes. I made a pretty good cut that time. Put this piece in, not yet, sorry. What I did was I cut a piece for the front and back and measured the width of them. Then I measured from the front to the back there, took that width minus the width of these, and that's the length of this piece. So say this is 8 inches, obviously it's more. 8 inches minus an inch, this would be 7 inches long. So you cut this 7 inches long, and that accounts for you covering up the end of this one right here. Measure that, and you put one side on, not both sides yet. Put one side on, glue and tack nail right there. Use a level, because otherwise your shelf will irritate you. From there, take one of these, glue it, and I use finishing nails right here. Put a level on it, and use finishing nails on, or I kind of held it here, I think, and figured out where this one went. And then I tacked this one on right here, and then I glued and tacked this one on. It was kind of a process. The back was easier because both of these sides were already on, so I just glued and tacked it on real easy. From there, I took, let me see, I've got this lip right here, let me see, right there, this little bitty piece. I just cut one of these in half and put it on there. But it wasn't that simple. I used glue and then put it roughly where I wanted it. Then I put clamps all along here. Then I got my piece out, not my gun, but this piece, and pushed it down until it was level. Now I got a little bit of a lip, but it's not enough to bother me because it's just an extra shelf in here, and it's not enough to really notice. So pushed it down and got this holder, this rail. Rail is a good word for it. At the height that I wanted to make this flush. And where my clamp was, I tacked it in there to hold it there, move that clamp. Then I would move this piece down to my next area, pushed it and oriented my rail where I wanted it, and tacked it. And I used 1-inch finishing nails just because of the thickness of this material. And I did all the finishing nails in from the back so you can't see the marks from my gun in the front. But I kept moving this down and kept aligning it, and lo and behold, worked out great. Did the same thing with the front side. And I think I took the length from the inside here to the inside on the other side, subtracted 1/8 of an inch, and that gave me the length of my rail. So that gives you your rails. These side rails are just to kind of help stabilize it, because I will be attaching it to this piece once it's painted. And it was a little bit trickier, but you have your piece, add glue to it, and you clamp it underneath this because you want it resting on the bottom of this. Clamp it underneath it and put it there, and that holds it in place like that while you use your nailer and just tack it in. And then you can move your clamps, lift this piece off, and it's there. Worked out great. I realized it after I did the first one, so the second one is phenomenal. And that's about the end of the shelf. These pieces, real simple. I wanted small slats. You can make big slats. And that gives you your whole shelf. So here I am ready to paint. I'm doing the shelves first, which are going to be red, because I think it'll look really awesome. I got the slats taken out right here. They're all laid out and spaced so I can get the sides. Not doing the bottoms, but that won't matter. As long as I get the sides, the entire thing they'll all look red, and that's why I hadn't attached them yet, so don't attach yours. This, I got it all taped up. One side falling off actually allowed me to not have to do as much, so kind of good, I guess. If you paint it beforehand, fantastic. Got the bottom of the shelf all taped off with Walmart shopping bags and bags from my local grocery store. My dog's wanting to play ball. I even went so far as to tape off the back, because I'm trying to make this look pretty good. And I'm going to be using a paint sprayer, paint gun, air compressor, so I know paint's going to be flying everywhere. Now this, it's not attached or anything, it's just setting up here. I had some scraps, I still have plenty of scraps. These were from some pallets, so I just screwed a couple using 2 screws on each to both sides, and then set it up here on a diagonal to the table, and it worked out really good. Oreo, go get your ball. But it sits up here no problem. I'm not putting any weight on it, I'm just painting it, so should go really good. Finally, after all this work, we have a coffee station. Got it all painted, went together just fine. I think mixed around the legs a bit because these bolts right here, they had a little trouble going in. They were a little difficult, but not bad. A couple things I would mention whenever you're putting this top on for the last part. Your legs are only strong because they're held together down here at the shelf and up here at the bolt. While you're putting it on, they're not held together, so they have a tendency to go in and out, which strains this joint right here. Be careful with that, because I actually had that pop off 2 or 3 times. Became a real pain. And so got it all together, really nice. I want to find some sort of finish to protect this paint, because there's some little bitty areas that aren't bugging me right now, but they could potentially, there could be more of them where those could grow. And then the last thing I did was get these hooks on here. These are just coat hooks from Walmart. They come in a package of 6. This was the only one that came in a package of 6. They had a black set with a package of 2, but it was just easier to get this. I grabbed 2 packages in case, but really, I mean, that's all I needed. And all I did was I got some coffee cups and held them up where I wanted it. Figured out where it hung. Put the hook there, held it here, took off the coffee cup, and then I drilled my pilot holes in. Drilled the pilot hole in one side, put the screw in, straightened it up, drilled the pilot hole on the other side. Did the same thing down here to figure out where that one went. After that, I measured the distance between the 2 and divided it by 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then your hooks are actually the lines that create that distance. So it gives your hooks the perfect alignment. And then I put each one an inch down from there, and it works out great. So now I get to load this up. I just bought a new espresso maker since mine crapped out before I started this project, and now I get to have a great coffee at a great station tomorrow morning. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Hope y'all get some awesome builds out of this. Kind of created this design because nothing really had what I wanted, and turned out really great. Turned out how I wanted. Little worried about the color because I'm not a color person, I'm a build person, but really great project. And if you guys come up with anything great or create your own, post a picture, let me know what you got going on, and I'll see you next time with the Renaissance Man.